Joining us is a lady who is no stranger to our program. Let me say a pleasant good evening to Dr. Indira Rampersad, political analyst. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Mikee K. How are you?
Well, I'm a lot better hearing your voice. I tell you that it's always good to have you on to give us that insightful perspective of what are we looking at and what's going to unfold. And I'm sure everyone on the eve of this election really and truly wants to know how things are expected to turn out tomorrow. But I won't put you in that hot seat, not as yet. Perhaps tomorrow evening I'll give you a call, or maybe Tuesday. But what I would want to ask you is that we just had former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine on, and we discussed about this $38 billion additional in revenue that was announced yesterday by Prime Minister Stuart Young. And of course, Mr. Ramnarine said that he doesn't understand where this figure is coming from. Even if the restructuring of Atlantic LNG, the resources are still not there. And if there is this windfall of money, perhaps then they can start looking at the forex crisis and, of course, dealing with a lot of the union, that is taking place, union liberations that are taking place. But that's not happening, wage negotiations. So on the platform, a lot is being said. What can we read from this?
Did you say $38 billion?
$38 billion in revenue, according to Mr. Young. Secure the future by restructuring Atlantic LNG. He said that this has never happened anywhere in the world. Now that's the part that gets me a bit scared. It has never happened before in the world. We heard that years ago with the World Gas to Liquid project, when we know for a fact that it was sold, that it's something that has a track record, a proven track record, but it has never happened before in the world. So we're hearing that again. And according to Mr. Ramnarine, how does he know it has never happened before in the world? Compounded with the fact that we were told that they secured on behalf of the citizens $56.5 billion of foreign direct investment in the energy sector alone. And Mr. Ramnarine said, well, there's always people waiting to invest in the energy sector. I mean, if you're talking about secure, then you need to tell us what projects go hand in hand with this $56.5 billion. So he was able to debunk that and say, listen, it just doesn't add up.
Just lost your voice.
Oh, sorry. He was able to debunk that and say, listen, these figures just simply do not add up.
Okay, so this is my take on it, Mikee K. We are in what you would call a silly season. And you would hear, are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
And you would hear a lot of silly things. So this might be beyond the silly. This is incredulous. You see, when you're making promises, when you're desperate times call for desperate measures. When you're desperate, when you didn't perform efficiently and effectively in 10 years, when the crime reach out, to such a level, when a prime minister demits, in the eve of a general election as prime minister, but remained as a political leader and appears in a platform, when an old cabinet remains there for the most part, a few new candidates are selected, but the same Minister of National Security has been appointed as prime minister, and the same Minister of National Security is actually proposing a bold new chapter. Implicit in that new chapter suggests that there was an old chapter, which certainly didn't work. So there's an admission there, and a tacit admission that it didn't work. So then you have to come with some kind of lofty promises to convince the population or persuade the electorate to vote for you. And it would take, I think it would take a certain psyche of an electorate to believe those lofty promises, which, are so incredulous, and more so that if all of this income was possible, this revenue was possible, if it was possible to explore this, since he became prime minister in 5 weeks or less, and you were able to get all these $1 billion for the country, and you were in that cabinet, Why couldn't you have advised your cabinet and head of cabinet, who was a former prime minister at the time, to explore these options so that the citizens wouldn't suffer the hardship and endure the pain that they have in the last 10 years? Why now? Are these just election promises? And I started off by saying it is the silly season, and we hear a lot of silly things. So I think this is certainly
and I want to
one of
agree.
them.
I want to agree with you. I mean, one would have thought that on the platform we would be hearing from the incumbent. I mean, a track record that has, would be highlighted by so much that they have done, they have implemented, where they can actually point to the average citizen and says that we were able to elevate your life from this to that. But we're talking about a backdrop where the economists are saying, listen, the middle class has been wiped out. Job opportunities are very scarce. Young people are graduating from universities with a lot of degrees and all eager to have the experience, but there are no jobs available. Has that not been focused into this equation, or is it all about seeing how best they can sell us false hope rather than dealing with the raw reality?
And it also suggests that they take the electorate, they don't believe that the electorate are independent thinkers or that they're thinkers at all, that to some extent they take them for fools, So the other thing that they're doing, it's a very negative and defensive campaign. They basically behaving as though the UNC was in power for the last 10 years. And sometimes they're going back to 2010 to 2015 to attack the UNC when they were in power. They held the reins to the coffers, to control of the treasury. They were in charge. So to campaign as though the opposition was in power, again, I am wondering about the psyche of the population that they think they're hoping to reach. So what I can conclude about this, if I may just make a statement here, is that they're still speaking to the flock. They're speaking to the diehard PNM, or what we would say PNM till I dead, who would buy it all, who would probably swallow it all, but because they're desperate to secure the base. And in politics and in life generally, if you don't have a solid foundation or a solid base, then the whole pyramid collapses.
Yeah.
So that is what I think they're really scared of, that the base themselves would defect. I have to tell you that I was at the rally yesterday, both rallies. I went to, as a political scientist, to check out the PNM rally and the UNC rally. PNM one, I went first, and about 5:30 p.m. I noticed a lot of people were leaving, and they were hopping in maxi taxis and going their way, more likely home. And this was early, and I was wondering why. And what I noticed, though, that it was a homogeneous, ethnically homogeneous crowd there. It's predominantly Afro-Trinidadian, South Afro-Trinidadian descent, and this is by no means a racist comment on my part. This is an observation. Okay. And when I went a little later on to the UNC campaign, there was broad, diversity, ethnic diversity throughout. That crowd was extremely diverse. I've never seen such a diverse crowd in a UNC meeting. So that's an interesting dynamic that will play off. So PNM, I think, has been trying to consolidate that group, reach that group, but that group may not be enough to win a general election because, as we know, you have to reach the others, you have to reach non-voters, you have to reach floating voters, and you have to reach, mixed voters of all ethnic descent to be able to win those marginal constituencies in particular. Because I do think they more than likely will hold on to their safe seats, both parties, but those marginal constituencies is where the election will turn.
Yeah, no, my takeaway from this, and I want you to weigh in on this, of course, is the tone of the opposition leader's speech yesterday. Let's take away all the fireworks and all the flags and all that, made up that audience, the excitement and what have you. But it was as if she was speaking to not just the undecided, but people who say, listen, I don't want to get involved. This is not for me. I don't hear politicians talking things that are real. They are not in sync with what is taking place with us in our lives. They're totally out of our element. And she made it quite clear. She said, listen, I accept that my body appears old now. It looks small and frail. But inside this body is the mind and heart of a mother that is filled with love. A mother to all of you. Was I perfect? No, I wasn't. And I humbly say sorry to my loyal rank and file UNC membership for that. I did make mistakes. You usually don't hear this. You'll hear a lot of talk, you'll hear pecan, you'll hear all that. But to talk directly, as if looking into the mirror and saying, listen, I am not perfect by far. I am not perfect. I'm small. I look frail. Perhaps you question that. Perhaps you have this, these things reserved in your psyche as if whether or not I have what it takes to do the job. But I'm telling you now, yes, I recognize this, but I also have the expertise, the know-how, the will, the commitment, the dedication to get the job done when it comes to serving you. Now, is this something that is new? I mean, we usually don't hear it. What say you?
And this is a masterful stroke. This is a masterful stroke to the ordinary person, to the middle class person, to the rich, to the poor, to the non-voter, to the floating voter. This is who I am. So I think it was a message that was coming from the heart. She could have added, though, that despite my frail body, my brain is working well, and we could have seen that just from the speech. And I believe she wrote that speech herself because it was coming, it was coming from her heart. So she was making this appeal to the population that no matter what, and she also used the term love several times, Mikee K, in that speech, which she uses in the platform and, those town hall meetings often. But she keep reminding the population that she's always loved them. So she is making an emotional appeal to them to make a sensible decision, because no matter what, we're all humans, we make mistakes, but she's basically tried her best. I think that is what she was saying. She's basically tried her best, even if she's not perfect.
Yeah. And she goes on, of course, to say that, yes, my body has aged from the years of battering, bruising, humiliation, ridicule, abuse, and insults. She said, I've been called the worst thing anyone can be called. I've been called jammet, drunk, dog, and every nasty word in between. She said, however, she acknowledged that despite the harshness of the political battlefield, she has never become bitter. That says something, meaning that she has never lost focus. Because on one hand, you heard yesterday that Dr. Rowley said, listen, Mr. Young is the better man because he looks better. His appearance is better. Youthful and wild-spirited. But on the other hand, you hear a leader saying, listen, yeah, I've Father Time has taken some lashes at me. I've taken some hits. I've taken some bumps and some bruises, but I'm still standing tall. I mean, to actually come out and say those words that you have been described, and you've seen yourself, your loved ones, your family, they would have been hurt by it, but you didn't reject it. You simply said, listen, after all is said and done, I still remain who I am. I'm not bitter.
There are two dimensions to this that I want to discuss. Dr. Rowley is talking about Mr. Young looking better, but how is Dr. Rowley looking as a political leader standing in that platform there? As a political leader, okay, and as a prime minister who just had to resign, probably was forced to resign. So how is he looking? Believe 75 years old or more, and standing there and talking about looks. Is politics about looks? So that's one question we want to ask. Is the politics really about how the leader looks? And the second point I want to make is that, and you mentioned it, is that I think she has kept, that this is Kamala Prasad Bissessa, has kept remarkably focused throughout her political career. She's been through numerous internal elections where her own position as political leader of the UNC was challenged by stalwarts in her own party. Some of them are still there, some of them left. Several times she's had to face the fire of dissenters, or dissidents as we call them. And from what we saw yesterday in that crowd, Mikee K, I think that crowd was 2 to 3 times bigger than that of the PNM, because I also think the Arangwe's Savannah is bigger than that of Eddie Hart, the ground itself. The PNM had a large crowd, but I think the UNC one was massive. And to command that kind of crowd in the wake of everything that has happened in the last few years, since 2015, throughout COVID, and particularly in the last few months, I think that is a phenomenal achievement in itself, no matter what the results are. I think the UNC fought a very, very, positive, vibrant, and energetic battle, a very professional campaign. I was just looking at how they were dressed yesterday in this sort of uniform, very, very, formal, professional look. And I look at the stage, and the stage was just amazing, that stage. And and I told myself, not only are the finances coming forward to support the UNC financially, but that they have developed a level of professionalism which has added to the momentum that they have achieved in this election campaign. Now, we don't know the outcome of all of this. I always say crowds don't win elections, because we still have tomorrow and the election day machinery to deal with and to analyze and to see how the parties are able to bring out their ground voters. But I really think that it was an amazing campaign in the wake of all that she's faced and all the negativities that's come her way in the recent and not so recent past.
Yeah, I want to agree with you there, definitely. But time is not, time is up on us, but I'll give you a few minutes, closing comments. Go right ahead.
So it's been an interesting campaign with some unprecedented dynamics, with now a prime minister who is not a political leader. I think that is confusing the population, and particularly the PNM supporters to some extent. Today I am hearing the rhetoric of change, that many want change. I think we would need to see what happened in some of the seats, apart from Tunapuna, San Fernando West. Moruga we want to look at, because that's a narrow victory there. I think the UNC will retain Chaguanas East, Pointe-a-Pierre, which is now Claxton Bay. Mm-hmm. And I think the UNC can also rest St. Joseph. And you asked me not to predict too much, but I do think that there was a very well organized campaign in St. Joseph by Mr. Devish Mirage. So I think the PNM, with the burden of incumbency and poor performance in the last 10 years, I think that they have the work cut out for them. Not that the UNC can sit in its laurels and expect, that it's just going to be an automatic victory. I think they work the ground as well, but the election day machinery for both parties will be very, very important.
I agree with you. It boils down to that at this moment. I mean, all that was needed to take care of has been taken care of. This is it. It's like you're practicing for a game. The coach can be on the sideline screaming as loud as he or she wants, but this is it. You're in the game, so there's only so much you can do. And now we wait to see what happens with the election day machinery. How enthusiastic people are, also not just by casting their vote, but by also going out after they've casted their vote and bringing other people and assisting and volunteering. So all of this we have to look at, and you are correct. Hopefully I'll be speaking to you, if not tomorrow, on Tuesday, and we'll be catching up on the results. Thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure, and it has been a pleasure having to speak with you during this campaign here on The Observer.
Thank you so much, Mikee K. It was my pleasure as well.
Thank you.